Welcome to Crisis in Perception, where we examine the systems shaping our world.
Now, just a quick heads up before we jump in. This isn't a summary, and it's definitely not advice. What we're doing here is building a kind of blueprint, a way to see the hidden rules that so often govern our most important relationships.
To do that, we're going to use a case study. And for this one, we're looking at a really popular manual on this stuff, Lysa TerKeurst's book, Good Boundaries and Goodbyes. We're going to use its ideas to help us take apart a social system that's super common, but usually invisible.
Okay, first things first. Let's actually name the system we're looking at, because this is something almost all of us are a part of every single day, but we almost never stop to think about how it's actually built.
So the term we're using is relational access structures. It sounds a little academic, I know, but just think of it like this. It's the unwritten rulebook, the invisible code that decides who gets a backstage pass to our lives. Who gets our time, our emotions, our real, unfiltered thoughts.
And this quote really flips the script, doesn't it? It frames access not as something that's just owed or automatic. Instead, it's something we grant. And, this is the key part, that access should depend on whether someone can handle it responsibly.
All right, so now we know the system, but every system runs on incentives, right? Things that push and pull our behavior. This one's no different. So let's pop the hood and look at the mechanics. What happens when the wiring in this system gets, well, a little messed up?
A lot of the time, the system is running on some seriously faulty code. It actually rewards us for granting access without asking for any responsibility in return. It tells us that personal sacrifice, even to the point where we have nothing left, is a good, moral thing. And it really, really encourages us to dodge accountability. All in the name of what? Keeping the peace?
And this is where it gets really tricky. The system's whole definition of love can get twisted. Things that we're told are loving, like being endlessly patient or just looking the other way, can actually become the very things that keep harmful, destructive patterns going.
So you can see this domino effect, this clear chain of events. You start with the incentive, giving access without responsibility. That leads to a pattern of enabling. And the outcome? It's totally predictable. Emotional burnout, massive stress, and a relationship that's just fundamentally unstable. Okay, so if the system is broken, how do you fix it? Well, this case study proposes a really interesting structural fix. It suggests we need to install a whole new operating system. And that new system is built on boundaries. And this brings us to the central metaphor, the big idea for how to fix this. Think of boundaries not as walls, right? Walls are just for rejection, for isolation. Instead, think of them as gates. A gate isn't about punishment. It's a tool for governance. It creates safety, not by locking everyone out, but by carefully deciding who comes in and how. It's about protecting the good stuff inside. And the whole point of this gate system is so important. It's not a weapon. You're not using it to punish someone or to win an argument. No, it's a tool. A tool you use to make the relationship safe, to protect its very foundation so that a real healthy connection has a chance to grow.
But look, installing a new system is never easy, right? Especially when the people around you are still running the old, buggy software. And this mismatch, it creates a huge conflict in how everything is perceived.
And here it is, the key friction point. This is the crisis in perception. It's that exact moment when one person puts up a gate, a tool for governance, for safety, but the other person sees a wall. They see rejection. An act that's meant as structural care gets misinterpreted as just pure emotional cruelty.
And this real-world example from a reader, wow. It shows you just how deep this goes. The rules of that old, broken system were so baked in that trying to build a new, healthier structure felt like you were violating something sacred, a core part of your moral or even religious identity.
Which of course brings us to the big question, right? If this whole system of limitless access and no responsibility is so, well, dysfunctional, then why in the world does it stick around?
Let's dig into that. What are the underlying beliefs? What are the cultural stories we all hear that keep this old, broken system propped up?
Well, for one, it persists because we're surrounded by these really powerful stories that tell us that true love means giving someone limitless access to you, that making huge sacrifices is the ultimate proof of that love, and that our friends and communities should always be pushing for reconciliation, even if the structural problems that caused the breakdown haven't been fixed at all.
And of course, this little interpersonal system, it doesn't just exist on its own in a bubble. It's being fed and reinforced constantly by much bigger systems out there. Things like religious norms about forgiveness, cultural myths about unconditional love, specific gendered expectations about who should be doing the sacrificing, and even ideas from frameworks around addiction and codependency.
So, when you put it all together, here's the big takeaway. The key is to shift our perception. When we stop seeing boundaries as an emotional weapon and start seeing them as a neutral tool for governance, that's when we get the structural clarity we need to build healthier, more stable relationships.
Crisis in Perception examines how systems shape belief and how better tools help us see clearly.
This project is free and publicly accessible. If you'd like to support the time, tools, and research behind Crisis in Perception, you can become a supporter on Patreon.
For a longer audio-based analysis of this topic, see the deep dive linked in the description.
If you enjoyed this kind of systems-level analysis, please like, subscribe, and comment with books or topics you'd like us to explore next.